Hey guys!
Howdy!
What's up and welcome back or to the Roomies Digest. My name's Christine.
I'm Mo.
And today we're doing our April wrap-up.
Pretty much just going to be listening to Christine for 15 minutes, but that's exciting, right?
I feel like in general, April is a little bit of a slumpish month anyway, just what I've seen on BookTube and Bookstagram. A lot of our friends slumped, and also, as you guys know, we've talked about this for almost a month now, but our Instagram got a little deactivated. So we both kind of were in a weird space. You know, we dealt with that in different ways. I threw myself into books.
I play video games.
Yeah.
So who wants to start first?
I think I should start first.
Yeah, maybe go through 3 of them.
Bum, bum,
Da 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 da.
bum, bum.
Da.
Okay, so first on our list, let's just go through what we had to read last month. I do a channel read every month, Books with V, Vish's channel, and she started the Davabad trilogy. And this is the first in that trilogy, and basically we're just going to read a book a month, basically just like a YA fantasy. It follows a young woman who is kind of like a con artist, and she gets into a little bit of trouble with some magical beings and realizes that there's more to life than just being a con artiste. And there are a lot of fun characters, a lot of political intrigue in this, and like a little jealousy, a little like romance situation. But yeah, I loved this first book, and I'm going to be continuing on with the second book. If you guys have watched our May TBR, which I'll link up in the cards, I ended up giving this a 4.5 stars and highly recommend if you are a YA fantasy lover. Then following that, I read Morning Star, which is the third book in the Red Rising trilogy. And guys, this was a wild freaking ride. This is a 5-star read. I loved this book so much. I was squealing, I was hollering, I was deceived. This is such a good sci-fi, like adult sci-fi. I would highly recommend that. You know, my favorite character was doing my favorite character things, and I just had a really good time with this. So if you guys are into, like I said, adult sci-fi, I highly recommend the Red Rising trilogy. The other read-along that I have been doing for the past couple months is the Daughter of Smoke and Bone read-along. This is the second book, Days of Blood and Starlight. I really am enjoying this like YA fantasy read-along. Unexpected, really, because when I first started the first book, I was kind of like, what's happening? But yeah, I'm really enjoying it. First book kind of follows these two star-crossed lovers, but in this book, it's more of what's happening in the two worlds and more of kind of like the political moves that everybody has to make to survive, that kind of thing. But this series also has like a found family trope, and I would say that that's a little bit stronger than the kind of like love interest in this particular book. Now, the third book in the trilogy, I have no idea what's gonna happen. It's the thickest one of the 3 books, so I'm assuming it's gonna be cray. But I'm really enjoying it, and you know, highly recommend if you're into YA fantasy. The last kind of thing that I had to read this month, I did a reading vlog with Nicole Lee from Bon Bon Reads, where we book swapped books and read the books that we book swapped from each other. I will link up in the cards that reading vlog so you guys can check that out if you're interested. But the 2 books that I read for that to complete that vlog was The Alchemist and A Monster Calls. Both of these books are very, very good. Very, very different though. The Alchemist follows a young man on his journey to find like his life's purpose, his life's journey, and he has to go through all these trials. He ends up, you know, having like a love interest, and it's all about the journey. It's a little bit more philosophical, but it definitely is a fun, good time. It has like a lot of learning in it, if that makes sense. You can take a lot from this book if you happen to just kind of take it in, if that makes sense. You want something that will make you think, this is definitely the book for you. Lots of things to be learned from this, and I really enjoyed it. And actually, I didn't realize this at the time, but I came across a quote in this book that I have literally had as my Twitter banner since I created my Twitter, and I didn't realize that I had read this that long ago, but that's how much that quote really impacted me. I still have it on my Twitter to this day. So if you guys are interested in that reading vlog, like I said, I'll put it up in the cards so you can check it out. The other book that I ended up reading for that reading vlog is A Monster Calls, which follows a young man who happens to conjure a monster, and he's dealing with some other things in his life that make it really, really complicated, but it is set in, I believe, England, and it's all about him kind of dealing with this monster that he didn't mean to bring about. It's really, really good. The ending made me cry, and it is a 5-star read for me. Highly recommend if you guys are wanting to experience someone dealing with heartache, grief, and also having to deal with it in specific ways. I really enjoyed the writing style and really like this book, so highly recommend.
I read Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. It was very good. Everyone has raved about it, and it's pretty much about first son of the President of the United States and the second Prince of England. Like, I don't know, I think he's not going to be king, but he's like the spare, you know,
like the younger brother.
Yeah, the younger
okay
brother.
The spare.
That's what he said. It really made me laugh. They're rivals. Are they though? Anyway,
Is it enemies to lovers, you say?
It's like enemies to friends to lovers, but really, were they ever friends? Anyway.
This is such a chunky book for a romance.
I really think it was a good pace. Like, I was like, man, because usually, you know, things are going quick.
Mm-hmm.
But this book, it was very...
slow burn.
I wouldn't even say it was slow burn. It's just a lot happened. Like, you think, like, okay, it's going to end soon. But then you realize, hold on, there's so many other, like, 200 pages left. What's going to happen in 200 pages? So I definitely recommend if you guys have not picked this up, 5 stars. I want to read her new book coming out, or their new book, I'm not sure. One Last Stop. I know it's going to be good.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. The romances that I read this month, I ended up reading Spoiler Alert by Olivia Dade, and that basically follows a young woman who's a scientist, like loose. I think she's actually like a geologist. I might be wrong.
I thought they wrote fan fiction.
So she is a geologist, but she writes fan fiction on the side, and she writes it for this popular TV show that basically is like Game of Thrones, and she ends up meeting the main lead of that show, and they fall in love. Like, really, what else can I say? I don't want to give too many of the details because then, you know.
Yeah, it'd be spoiler alert.
Yeah, it would be a spoiler alert. I just love this story so much. I gave it a 5 stars. Like, it was just really great. Loved it. So highly recommend if you're looking for a fun romance. And it does have some smutty aspects to it, so I can't wait for you to read this book. You are really gonna love it. And the other romance that I ended up reading was The Kiss Quotient. And this is also another feel-good romance that I just really, really loved last month. It's about a young woman who has Asperger's, and she basically just wants to live her life. You know, she wants to have a normal boyfriend, normal job, you know, normal life, whatever. But her parents keep putting pressure on her to marry and have kids and give them grandkids that they can play with and all that kind of stuff. So she ends up hiring a male escort to kind of show her the ropes because she's never really had a serious relationship before that she has cared about and wanted to, you know, make a family with. It's all about them, and obviously it's really cute. It made my heart squeal. So yeah, like I said, I gave that a 4 star, and that was the other romance that I read this month. Okay, so the next book that I ended up reading this month was The Cruel Prince for the Cruel Prince read-along, which I am hosting with my good friend Nicole from Bon Bon Reads. I will link that announcement video up in the cards above, and also put the discussion of the Cruel Prince book down below in the description if you guys are interested in checking that out. But basically, we are doing a read-along of this trilogy, which technically has a novella, The Lost Sisters, which we read this month as well, but it's literally a 50-page, something like that. But yes, we read that this month, and I ended up giving this a 4.5 stars. I really, really enjoyed this book, and I know this, it's technically an enemies to lovers, but it's really not about the romance in the first book because it's a slow burn. It's really more about the political, like, it's really more about the politics of the world and kind of learning about this fairyland. But this follows a young girl named Jude, who at a young age has her parents murdered by fairies, and that fairy in fact takes her back to fairyland to have her grow up as one of their own. And it's all about how she never really fits in because everybody else around her is magical and she is just a plain Jane, you know, trying to live her life as a human. So it's very, very interesting. I really liked it. And the romance moments that we got were just like, it was so good. Because they truly do hate each other. Her love interest is not nice. He's not a nice person. And like, you can say, you know, hate to love about other books and other relationships, but in all of those kind of books, especially in the fantasy books that I've read, this truly is a hate to love. And they don't even love each other, like, in this book. So I don't even know if they will love each other, but...
How do you know they're meant to be?
I don't know. I'm just going off of what people have said about this series and the fan art that I have indubitably looked up and put on my phone as a screensaver. If you guys are looking for a true hate to romance, this is not your book. But if you are looking for a fantasy to really dive deep into and kind of learn about another world, like world building, then this is the book for you. It also has some really great twists and turns and politics in it, so I really enjoyed it, and it really reminds me of another fantasy book called The Hollow Kingdom. If you guys, you know, OG fantasy people might know what that is, but that's what it really reminded me of, and I had a good time. It was a good time. The Lost Sisters, which is the novella that accompanies this book, it's from the sister's point of view, Taryn. I gave that a 3 stars. It was okay, but like it didn't really add anything to the story, and it really just made me hate that girl. So that's what happened with that.
I read a fantasy.
I would love for you to talk about that.
I guess it's not really a fantasy. I read Ninth House for Secret TBR. I'm not going to go too much into my thoughts because I will be having a vlog about this come out. But I finally finished it, y'all. Yes, it was fun.
Proud of you.
I ended up liking it, I think.
You think? What did you rate it? You don't want to talk about it?
No, it's going to be in my vlog.
Okay, so just so you guys know, that vlog's going to be coming out next week. So if you're like, what did you think of Ninth House? You'll find out next week.
Yes.
So, yeah, cool. Going back on the Leigh Bardugo train that I so casually fell off of last month because I couldn't make myself read this book. It really truly was paining me. I didn't have the courage, guys. I'm a coward. I read Rule of Wolves last month, which you guys know I got at the end of March, but guys, it took me literally all month to read this book. This was the last book that I read this month, and it was because I was scared. I'll say it. I was scared, but I shouldn't have been. You know, I should have had faith in Leigh because I truly thought that this was going to be the last book of this series. And I'm not going to get too far into it because Monique has literally not even finished Ruin and Rising. But if you guys are interested in my thoughts on this book and the vlog, the reading vlog, I'm going to link that up in the cards above so you can experience this with me. I did end up giving this a 4.5 out of 5 stars. I just love Six of Crows, okay? I love the crows, and that's all I'm going to say. But also, you know, Nikolai is my babe, my boo.
Don't even say that with a face. That's not even true. You said it and you breathed in deeply because you know deep.
Well, because I don't think we got enough of Nikolai in this book, and that's what I was gonna say. And then I had to think about it because I was like, is this a spoiler for you? But it's not really. In my opinion, we could have had more Nikolai in this book, but I realized that Leigh used this as a, you know, nice little bow on the Grishaverse for now. I truly believe in my bones that there will be another Grishaverse book.
I can't keep up with all those books.
Anyway, like I said, if you guys are interested, check out that vlog. Another classic fantasy tale, apparently, that, you know, I'm not even sure if BookTube or Bookstagram really even talks about this book anymore, but I feel like it's worth a mention.
They talk about this all the time.
And Ember in the Ashes. You know, I think so, but I keep getting mixed reviews. Some people have DNF'd this series, and some people truly love this series. This is a YA fantasy about a young girl. This looker right here. Look at her. She gets her house kind of like jumped on by these bad guys. They take her brother away, and her whole goal is to find her brother again. So she has to infiltrate the bad guys basically and go undercover and save her brother. So it's all about that, and it's really, really fun. They have some cool moments in here where they've got like a fighting academy. So if you guys are into that kind of trope, that kind of storyline, then this will be the thing for you. It was just fun. It was a good YA fantasy. I gave it a 4 stars, but yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was a fun time.
I was attempted to participate in the Thrills and Chills Readathon. I only had 3 books on my plate, and I did complete 2. I did not finish Pretty Girls, and that's fine. I'll get to it when I get to it. My buddy read No Exit with Rachel from Let Me in the Library, and it was pretty good. I'm giving it, I don't think I loved it as much as everyone else did. It was I don't want to say it's predictable, but like once you realize the amount of options there are, it becomes predictable, if that makes sense, without giving out any spoilers. So it like moves quick, but there are a lot of chapters, if that makes sense. There's like 28 chapters in this book. I felt like it got a little predictable in the middle, so I'm giving it a 4.
Oh, it's better than I thought. To give it some context, Monique reads a lot of thrillers and mysteries, so I feel like you probably didn't enjoy it as much because it would be like me reading a fantasy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because like you kind of know the gist of, or the formula sometimes when you read a lot of one genre.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
It's like Christmas Eve, I believe, and it's really snowing, so the main character, Darby, gets stranded at a rest stop, and she's trying to like get a, outside for some reason. I think she's talking on the phone or something, and she notices something in the car, and there's a kid in the back seat, and she's trying to figure out what to do, and she's also stranded at a rest stop.
And chaos ensues.
Yeah,
the
pretty
whole book takes
premise,
place over like one night, I think.
Yeah, it's pretty simple premise. I definitely recommend it. I just personally was like, okay, this could be the only answer, and it turned out to be right, so that's why I docked it a star. It was fun. I read an audiobook. Literally took like a work day. Just had it on while I was working.
The thriller that I ended up reading this month to kind of complete that 2021 goal that I have every month of reading a thriller or mystery or whatever, I ended up reading Night Film, which came highly recommended from our good friend Jess from Books Past Bedtime. I really enjoyed it. It's about a man who's kind of like a journalist who is trying to crack into the story behind this man who makes interesting, like, kind of cult films, and they all are set place at night. They always have like tragic things happen in them, and they're like very, very weird, like cult.
They're not
like
snuff films.
No, they're not snuff films. I wouldn't describe them as snuff films. But they always have like gruesome aspects to them, like gory aspects, but also like weird things happen in the films. So he's trying to kind of like uncover the truth behind this man, because this man hasn't been seen in so long. And it turns out that his daughter is murdered, and the guy like happens to know information about the murder. So he's trying to kind of like crack into what really happened, and how the girl died and things like that. Like, where is the dad? Where did he go? So it's very, very interesting. I really, really liked it. There are some like weird parts to it, I would say, that kind of like don't make sense, or it could go either way. But overall, I mean, I enjoyed it. It's a very long thriller. Like, I want to say it's like 700 pages or something like that. So I did find myself kind of like skimming some parts, because it was just like, we didn't need all that information, just for kind of like the skimming parts of it, because we just really didn't need all that information. And also the ending, I wanted more answers to my questions. So it was a little bit unsatisfying, but overall I liked the story, and I liked the premise, and I liked the writing style. It was cool. It was mixed media throughout the book. So you would see like newspaper clippings of the murder, and then like, records from like the doctor. So it was really cool to read it that way. Overall, 3.5 Night Film. That's what I thought. The other read-along that I participated in this month was the Scythe-along, hosted by our good friend Noelle at Noelle7pages. I will link her channel down in the description below, but basically we read the last book in the Scythe arc series trilogy, and that book is called The Toll. Sorry, I realized I didn't even say the name of the book. And guys, I've been having such an issue with this 3 books, and it really kind of stinks, because a lot of our friends on BookTube literally love this series. Like, they love this series. And I also think the premise is so cool. It's basically about a society that in the future, they don't have death anymore. Everyone is basically like immortal, but not in like a God's kind of way. It's just there's no death anymore. So they have these things called scythes. They're people who go and just kill people. And, I just think this premise is so cool, but the executions for some reason just has not been great for me. So I have read it through ebook. The past 2 books I read through ebook, and I was like, okay, this is the last book. Everyone loves this series. I need to switch it up. So I did the Toll on audio, and y'all, it changed the game for me. I thoroughly enjoyed this book, and I know people hate the last book in this series, but I really love it. This book, I gave it a 4 stars, so already that's a whole like 1.5 stars more than what I have been giving the first 2 books. For some reason, to have experienced it in this medium, it just made the whole entire story that much better, if that makes sense. And I get that people don't like the last book because they wanted more from it. They wanted more from the romance, and they wanted more from just like the story in general. But somehow via audiobook, I really understood Neil Shusterman. I was like, okay, it's not about the characters. It's not about the romance. And honestly, if you're reading the series for the romance, please don't, because it's not good. It's not even about the romance. You know what I mean? It's just there. This series is about the future and kind of like what could happen one day, maybe, like loosely sci-fi, obviously. And it's about kind of dealing with our decisions as a whole, like as people, and, you know, kind of what comes from that. And it definitely is a series that kind of makes you think about what these people are doing and experiencing, just like a little bit deeper than just like a sci-fi, you know, where you're there for like the action and adventure and stuff like that, because the action's not really that good. Like the adventure is okay, the romance is not there, but it's more about like what the text can represent. I really understood the series with this last one, so I'm proud of my experience, because I really was not expecting to have a good experience with the Toll, and that's all I'm gonna say. I enjoyed it. 4 stars. I understood it, and I took it for what it was. It's kind of like with Addie LaRue, like once you knew what it was,
yeah, you
knew what to expect, you know?
Immensely, yeah.
Yeah,
more.
It was good. And I definitely highly recommend, if you guys have read it and you don't like it, highly recommend trying it on audio.
I have one more book. It's my last book, and it is called Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir.
Oh, sci-fi. Another
yes,
sci-fi.
It was very, very good. Pretty much about a lone astronaut in space to save Earth.
This was an arc, right?
Yes, it's an arc, but he doesn't remember why he's in space.
Mm.
And so it's pretty much him figuring out how to work everything, where he is, what's happening. So we're learning it all through like flashbacks, kind of.
Would you rate it?
I gave it a 4 star. I had a good time. The ending, I was expecting a different ending, so just on that, I was like, So it's between 4.5, 4. So I think I'm gonna go down to a 4. Hopefully, you know, Andy doesn't come and attack me on Twitter.
I'm sure. Oh my gosh, you guys know that Twitter drama. All right, guys, so I've got 4 more books, I believe. We'll start with the YA fantasies that I read. I have been reading the Shatter Me series, which is the YA dystopian series that I feel like everyone has read, but I have never read it before, so I'm going through it and reading it. The book is called Unravel Me, and you know, it just follows a young woman who has been in an insane asylum her whole entire life because she accidentally killed someone when she was younger. It's about her kind of breaking out and finding people like her, basically becoming a resistance to the government. Loose base of what's happening there. By no means is a, you know, profound YA fantasy. Like, it is just like a 2010s YA fantasy, but I'm enjoying it. I'm really just here for the romance because a friend of mine told me to read it for the romance, and I am enjoying parts of it. I'm hoping that the last book will be the best book, but this one was kind of like middle of the road, medium, so I rated it a 3 stars. I don't know if I'm going to continue on with like all of the books in the series, but definitely this next book that will complete the first 3 that were kind of like written around the same time. So that, and then also another read that wasn't super stellar this month, I ended up reading Crave by Tracy Wolf, which has so much hype on BookTube and Bookstagram. And, you know, we talked about this in the April TBR, but it looks, you know, very similar to Twilight. As you read it, you kind of realize it is very similar to Twilight, but it follows a young girl who, after her parents have been killed in a car crash, she goes to live with her uncle in Alaska, and her uncle is the head of this like academy in Alaska, like a boarding school essentially. And she ends up, you know, kind of being confused this whole book because she's like, something's going on here, but I don't know what it is, but something is not right. And she realizes that there may be some supernatural elements to the boarding school and maybe some supernatural creatures to the boarding school. So anyway, it's very similar to Twilight in the fact that, like, you know, you've got this young teenage romance element. It's kind of insta-lovey. You're like, okay, this happens super quick. Besides that, and let me just say, y'all, I did rate this, I think a 3.5. Let me see. I did rate this a 3. Besides the plot being the romance was good for a YA. It was good. Had some good moments. Yes. Is it enough for me to continue? I would continue this more than I would continue the Shatter Me series. So we'll say yes. It's not an immediate yes where I'm going to like go through all of the books, but I am interested because the plot twist at the end, I was like,
did not see that coming.
Okay, guys, 3 more books. So I read From Blood and Ash for the first time this past month. I got this from our good friend Naomi. She sent it to us. I'm actually going to talk about this.
What is that? You should do them together because I was like,
and this at the same time. So I'm not going to go too deep into this because I did do a reading vlog of this where I talk about how I guess the entire plot of this book. Plots in both of these books, they're very similar. Like, it's a very similar equation. So if you read a lot of fantasy, you will probably know exactly what's happening happening. But honestly, I'm not telling you to read these books for plot. I'm really not, because as you'll see in the reading vlog, it's kind of similar to Crave in some ways, where they've got some fantastical beasts and creatures, and you're just like, okay, we're here for this. We're not actually here for the plot for these books. We're here for the smut. The smut in these two books is a 5 out of 5. It is a good time, but I don't want to tell you guys that it's happening all the time. Like, this is not in a Court of Silver Flame situation where you've got smut every 2 pages. This is like a smut happens, and then you've got a lot of plot, dumping. A lot of plot dumping, world building, and then a little tiny bit of smut, and then lots of plot and world building again. So if you are okay with that and you want to get into that and experience that smut, then I highly recommend these books, because I do love these characters, like Poppy and Hawk. Bless them, they're great. I love them. I can't even deny it. But, does it get repetitive and a little boring sometimes? Yes. So both of these books I rated a 4 stars, just because the smut was a 5 out of 5, but the plot was a 3 for sure.
I can't read this series.
Yeah, I'm not telling you to. I'm not telling you to. I'm really not.
I'd just rather read a dark romance. Day at that point.
Yes. I will find us a fantasy that has good plot and good smut. I will find it, and I will tell you guys when I find it. But this is not for plot. Smut only. And that's what I recommend to you if you are interested in that. Dun, 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 dun. I finally read something that I'm sure no one but Jayla has been looking for in our wrap-ups. And here it is. Black Sun.
Yay!
I started this a long time ago, and I left off at chapter 34, which is, I was saying it was like 10 pages, but it was really 30. It was like 40 pages. And it was like right before all the crazy stuff happened. And I know what happened. I was reading this at night, and I got to that chapter, and I was like, ooh, all this stuff's about to happen. Let me not rush it, because when you're tired at night, you don't really read, Well, I just kind of put it on my nightstand and was like, oh, no, I did pick it back up. I picked it back up this month. But yeah, I don't know, guys. This is such a good book, and I rated it a 5 out of 5. It is based on like pre-Columbian kind of like history, but basically there are two main-ish, actually 3 main characters, I would say. One's a sailor, one is a man who is blind, and one is a priest. And it sounds kind of boring as I'm saying it, but I'm telling you guys, if you guys are into fantasy, adult fantasy, this is such a good book, and I know that this series is going to be so good. I was a little confused, I'm not gonna lie, in the beginning, like, because it's going through everybody's POV. But once you kind of get established and you know who everyone is, then this is a really fun time. And I highly recommend if you guys are looking for a really good adult. There's not like huge romance aspects, so just in case you guys are looking for that, it's more about the plot. Like, the plot of this book is just so good, and the story is so good, and the characters are so good, and the little like romance moments you get are really good. Okay? As you can see from the pinks, those are the romance moments in that one red where I was really mad for 1 second. Anyway, this is a really great book, and I'm glad that I finally finished it. It's very good. Highly recommend. Anyway, I think that was everything.
Nice. You did a lot of books. Good job.
Yeah. I read a total of 18 books with a 4.47 average, so that's pretty good. Pretty good month.
I don't really do averages, so I read 4 books. Average 4. They're all 4 stars.
Pretty good, though.
I guess 4.5, because Red, White, and Royal Blue is a 5-star. Is that how
it was a 5-star? Yeah.
Yeah,
then it would average, I guess. I mean, I think it'd be like a 4.2 something, but that's still good. 4 is good.
Yeah.
Once you start getting into the 3s, you're like, did I have a good month? I don't think so.
Yeah. This was it.
So if you like this video, give it a like for us. Comment down below if you have anything to say, want to tell us your deep dark secrets, let us know. Definitely subscribe if you guys want to support me and Monique on this channel, and turn on that notification bell if you don't want to miss another video from us. And until our next video, we'll see you guys next time. Bye!